Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So this is a movie that is a sequel to War of the Planet of the Apes. It also sets itself out 300 years after the events of that film. So the movie itself is literally got its own set of characters and story from the previous films. So it says 300 years after Caesar's death, and pretty much the apes clans as well as the humans have become feral or non-existent now. So it's pretty much just sets the tone for a new story as well as new characters as well. And originally I was a little bit skeptical whether this was actually going to work, because considering a lot of films that pretty much use the same franchises and they start its own sets of story with different characters, usually it's kind of a bit lazy and just doesn't really work itself out compared to the other films. But overall, I was very surprised. I think they actually did connect the story from the previous films to this one pretty well, and I enjoyed it. It was actually pretty good. Now, the biggest compliment I will give for this movie is the action and the visuals. So the visuals, I think, is the most of the standout. I think with this movie, I really think they did an incredible job. Like the CGI looked really, really good, and it really captured so much of the atmosphere as well as the nature of some city buildings that have been pretty much become like this sort of natured forest wasteland, essentially. Something that you kind of see in like The Last of Us. So they really created the whole environments and the scenes very, very well. And it does make up for some, good action sequences as well. Certainly with the other apes clans versus the other apes as well. So really the main aspect of this film, especially with the story, which is I think they actually kept it pretty simple and really kept some continuity with his characters. So one of the main protagonists is Noah, who is one of the apes, and he has his form of bonding with friends as well as other family apes as well that have their own settlements and their own clan to basically use to protect from other coexisting apes as well. So they kind of start this whole thing with building their bond and their friendship together. And pretty much Noah also stumbles across a human that's pretty much he originally would have looked at as a thief or just someone trying to steal from their homes, which was May, and she's played by Freya Allen, who was in The Witcher, who I actually thought was really good as Ciri in The Witcher. So seeing her, in this one, she definitely fit the mold of the role pretty well, and she was actually definitely delivered the lines of the dialogue as well as her character very well too. So but yeah, pretty much the plot follows around main characters, mainly Noah and May, and there are like some other characters that kind of bond in as well, which they do get that development. And I think they really do keep it very simple. So part of the simple premise would be that, when Noah meets with May, they kind of have to find ways how the humans and the apes can coexist together. And May's trying to also find, ways to communicate with other humans as well to pretty much reach out to. Because pretty much the human race has pretty much become non-existent in the world that they live in now, which has just been dominated by apes. So they really do create, the story very simply with its premise as well, giving some good continuity for its characters with good use of development. But certainly the action scenes that they do bring is, well choreographed. It's not predictable in any sense of the imagination, and visually the movie is stunning. And I think those are some of the biggest compliments I could give for this film. Now, if I really had to point out with some things with this film, I do think the movie is a bit of a trope. So the movie is nearly 2.5 hours long, and I think for something as a simple premise as what they gave for this film, it really did pad quite a lot. And I do think sometimes it didn't need to go into some depths of dialogue and some, scenes in any way to really make up for that time. I think this movie really could have been at least a 2 hour film or less at best. Because I really felt there were some scenes that were just not really developing very well to really progress with the overall story. And I think sometimes it was kind of getting a little bit too much in some sense. So, and I really think as well, like, understanding the characters a bit, like Noah and May. I think although they have a very simple development and it's very simple chemistry between each other, I felt there wasn't so much to really understand from their characters and their perspectives very well as their motivations. It felt, some parts of the scenes, it felt that they kind of changed a little bit from, how they view, the world of how the apes should only exist when May wanted, find a way for the humans and the apes. And sometimes it just kind of, the dynamic just didn't feel, there for that film. So I feel like sometimes there was just a sense that the narrative wasn't really as conveyed as well as it could have been. And I think that's just mostly just down to really just padding that this film had. So I think really the runtime for this movie could have been less than what it would have been. So that's kind of like my only real like critique I really have for this movie. But overall, this is a pretty good film. I didn't think this movie was disappointing to watch at all. I enjoyed the majority of this film. I can't remember or recall the previous films as well, but I think a lot of people did mention they did maintain the similar qualities of the previous films, which is, I would assume, is a very good thing. So I think if you already recently watched the previous films and getting into this movie, or just watching this movie for the first time on its own, I think you will enjoy this movie. And I don't think you would feel lost with this film because it does set its own story narrative following the previous film, so there isn't really so much you have to be caught up with. So I think this movie sets itself up perfectly for you guys. So overall, if I have to rate Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think this is a great movie, is well choreographed. The action sequences worked really well. Visually, the film is stunning to immerse yourself. And yeah, maybe just parts of the padding and the pacing could have been better. I think the runtime could have been less to really kind of make more sense of, scenes and moments that could have been better executed, which they were executed, but sometimes the padding and the pacing of the film just kind of, killed a little bit of the moments a little bit because it felt a little bit of a trope to sit through. But regardless, this is a great movie. So yeah, let me know what you think of this movie if you have watched it. Please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching, and yeah, that's about it. See you later.